Hello dear friends, I'm Operator Starsky reporting on day 1209 of Russia's three-day war against Ukraine. Our defenders keep striking Russian terrorists on their territory. The armed forces of Ukraine liberated a settlement in Sumy Oblast. Ukraine reveals new long-range missile system. Risk of the new Russian invasion from Belarus emerges, and SBU stopped another terrorist attack in IvanoFranky involving a child. Let's talk about all this right now. So this month, Terrorist Federation launched 2,800 Shaheds strike drones, 3,000 guided bombs, and 140 missiles at Ukrainian cities, specifically targeting civilian infrastructure. President Zelensky shared these numbers, and I must say it's impressive, not in a good way, of course, but impressive in the same way that a drunk bear trying to ride a bicycle is impressive. Now, what's funny or tragic, depending on how much sleep you've lost, is that when Iranian missiles fly towards Israel, the whole world suddenly remembers how to intercept things, but when Russian trash flies at Ukrainian cities, and I'm talking massive attacks every single night, no, you cannot do that because dear Mr. Putin might feel upset, or shooting down Russian missiles might escalate the war. I don't know, my friends, it's almost like we have to paint the word Israel on our own cities, because maybe then someone will suddenly remember that Ukraine gave up world's third largest nuclear arsenal for peace in Europe, and all we've got instead was Russian invasion. But one way or another, we are not bitter, just chronically exhausted. And now to a piece of news that surely made some Russian generals spill their vodka this week. As you probably noticed, Ukrainian intelligence goes to Russia and back, as if it was a Disneyland. This time not SBU, but HUR, that's the Ukrainian military intelligence, apparently paid a little visit to Kaliningrad, but not to sightsee. They managed to shut down power at the Russian military facilities and kindly shared a video of that with the world. Yes, my friends, Kaliningrad, that tiny piece of Russia awkwardly wedged between Poland and Lithuania, just like that weird uncle at the family dinner. The operation reportedly left the terrorist military sites in the dark, and the Russian media, of course, either said nothing happened or that it was all part of their special light-saving operation, whatever helps them sleep at night. In more serious news, President Zelensky confirmed that our forces liberated the village of Andriivka in Sumy region. This operation was difficult, as you can imagine, and the region is still dangerous, because Russian terrorists keep bringing their personnel and artillery to this area. Apparently they're trying to stretch Ukraine's reserves, simultaneously escalating their advances in the direction of Pokrovsk, Chasiv Yar and Konstantinivka. Ukrainian rescuers, medics and volunteers are working day and night to help civilians leave the frontline areas safely, and at this moment about 60% of Ukrainians living in the frontline regions of Sumy were evacuated, according to the official sources. And now let's talk about Sapsan, the new Ukrainian ballistic missile system that's been announced recently. The missile boasts impressive speeds up to Mach 5.2, which is faster than your last Tinder date got boring, and a strike range officially hitting 300 kilometers in the official version, but insiders say that the real juice could stretch it to 500 kilometers, which is enough to gently flirt with the Russian military facilities and oil refineries awkwardly hidden in the Moscovian suburbs. The bird packs a 480 kilogram payload, which is comparable to a small car, filled with either high explosive or cluster warhead. Heads up though, because it only had seen combat use in June 2025 at about 300-kilometer range. Sapsan's warhead and range reportedly surpass ATACMS. It also echoes Russia's Iskander because we can see similar speed, similar reach, but finally bringing the terror Russian so-called special military operation back home. This system will give us the ability to strike at greater distances, targeting logistics hubs, ammo depots, and those command posts where Russian generals are trying to figure out how maps work. It's designed in Ukraine and for Ukraine, and the best part is that the more Sapsan systems we have, the fewer Russian soldiers will feel safe. In the meantime, Russia's terrorist leadership continues its favorite hobby, fantasizing about taking Kyiv. According to reports, they're moving equipment into Belarus, and those reports are saying that IL-76 were seen delivering supplies. Russian and Belarusian terrorists having mutual military exercises, carrying their own conscripts. The usual terrorist stuff. Experts say if Russia tried another assault on Kyiv, they would need to lose about 300,000 soldiers, which is fine for Kremlin, I think, because after all, they've got plenty of destitute men to throw into the grinder. But somehow I think that even their most loyal Z-patriots are starting to slowly run out of enthusiasm for this plan. But there's another threat, my friends. Different reports suggest that Russia will try to test if the Article 5 is still a thing and invade some of the Baltic states. According to several intelligence agencies, they might try to repeat the same scenario with the Green Man, for example, in Estonia or Finland. So yeah, if you hear someone in Russia saying this autumn Kyiv will be ours, remind them that they said that in spring 2022, winter 2023, and, well, you got the point. But because we all know that the modern Russia, even compared to other terrorist regimes, is basically the biggest evil the world had seen since 1945, we should all stay aware and, of course, cautious, because the hybrid Russian war against Europe is already going. Here's a fun economic fact. According to researchers at Kyiv University, the EU is now basically covering the cost of the American military aid to Ukraine. The reports show that Europe's contribution picked up speed over the last year, especially as the US is hitting its internal political delays. Also, according to The Telegraph, the new plan of Donald Trump suggests peace talks instead of supplying Ukraine with defense aid. So now Ukraine will basically have three options: rely on Europe, buy weapons in the US, or activize its own production using the European investments. What's sad about all that is that the main part of Russia's military expenses this year will be covered by Europe itself, that still has to pay Russia 20 billion euro for its oil, gas, coal, and uranium. The Financial Times reported that since 2022, Europe paid Russia about 200 billion euros for energy. How long can Russia keep this war going with that kind of money? The sad answer is for years, as long as they're willing to throw their own people into the meat grinder, and as long as the world keeps buying their oil, gas, and whatever else they're selling. And finally, a disturbing story from IvanoFranky. The SBU stopped what could have been a tragedy. A 15-year-old girl from Ivano-Frankivsk had been recruited by Russian terrorists to carry out a terrorist attack, and this stuff is often underreported in the news, unfortunately. So in case you didn't know, the Russian terrorists invented new tactics. They hire people in Ukraine through the social media, often teenagers and kids, and use them as suicide bombers to deliver explosives, eventually eliminating both the target and the carrier. Fortunately, this time the Russian plan failed because the girl informed informed Ukrainian law enforcement that prevented the terrorist attack. And once again, big thanks to our security service for keeping Ukrainian people safe every single day. With that, my dear friends and family, I wish you a beautiful day. Please subscribe to stay informed about the most important updates and share this content to help Ukraine be heard. I'll see you in the comments. I'm Operator Starsky. As always, be safe.